potential solutions that you could use in your shop if you're starting to be overbooked, fall behind, feel that domino effect. So try some of them, try all of them. These are all things that helped us out. And I wish someone would have like shook me years ago and said, like, try some of these because this will help.
Are you wrapping cars for 12 hours a day, every day? Is your social life non-existent? Are you barely making enough money to get by, if that? Are you drained, burned out, wondering how long you can keep this up? Well, so are we. My name is Andrew Banks.
And I'm Tanor Banks. And this is the WrapOps Podcast, where we don't really care about which car is the coolest one in the industry to wrap or the trendiest film on the market. This is a podcast about building a wrap business that actually works for you. We're here to help you dial in the business side of your business and your wrap shop because you deserve a break and we're going to help you do just that. So sales are going really well, and then all of a sudden you're dealing with one of the hardest problems, but arguably one of the best problems, which is being booked completely solid or being overbooked. The issue with being booked completely solid is that leaves like no room for error, for any of those unknown issues that might come up and cause a delay. And then, of course, being overbooked, we all know the issue with that is, how am I going to get all of this done with the manpower that I have? And I really wanted to do an episode on this specifically because this is something that, personally speaking, affected my entire life. Because when you are overbooked and trying to dig yourself out of a hole, that typically means you put your head down and you are pulling all-nighters, you're working insane amount of hours, you have no personal life, you're probably eating fast food and garbage and it's the norm in this industry is like get your energy drinks and shut up and quit whining and get to work. And this is not the episode for the person that just wants to get the jobs done, put the money in the pocket and go on about their life. This episode specifically is for the person who wants to kind of get out of that type of more installer mindset and more of your founder mindset of building something bigger than yourself and kind of the old, expression there of work smarter, not harder. That's really what you're going to get out of this episode. And the two main things I can say you'll get out of this episode is one, a tool you can use for problem solving, not just the issue of overbooking, but any problem that comes up in your business. And when you get really nerdy like me, you'll start doing it in your personal life. And also actual tangible things you can do if you are in a period of being overbooked and how to get out of that. And I do want to preface, this is not a cure all. Like, I don't have a magic pill that is going to, kind of fix everything for you. It is going to require a lot of effort on your end. It is going to require a lot of back end digging and work and setting up systems. And it's also going to take a lot of practice. So that's something that I think as an entrepreneur, we really belittle is just the amount of reps you put towards something will always make you better at it. So you're going to mess this up a few times and there's going to be upset customers and upset team members. And that is okay because you just have to shift your mindset on I'm trying something different, right? And that is all that really anyone can ask out of anyone is just keep trying different things and don't just stay stuck. Don't just stay in this pool of misery that you may possibly be in. And so that hopefully you can, have a better life. So let's dive right in. So the very first thing that I told you we would learn is the tool for kind of problem solving and a method for this. So I can't take credit for this. This is straight out of the EOS book, the Entrepreneurial Operating System by Gino Wickman, I believe is how you say his name. Super amazing book, very informational, very tangible. This is what you need to do to help get a hold of things on your business. They have a whole series and all of this stuff. But one of the key things that I personally took out of this book when I read it was the IDS framework that stands for identify, discuss, and solve. And the IDS framework is essentially how do you take a problem and figure out what the root causes are and then what those corresponding solutions are? And if you don't get anything from this podcast, the biggest thing that I hope you can take away is when you have a problem, there's never just one solution. It's always much, much, much bigger than that. So if we go to, the problem of overbooking, I actually personally came up with 9 things that could cause that. And I'm sure you could dive deeper and even find way more. But let's give a quick example of how this kind of IDS framework can work with something really simple and kind of silly. So we always use this with our team when we're discussing with them how we use this. And the example is that your breath stinks. So that is the problem that you want to solve. Your breath reeks. And you probably think, oh, the issue is I don't brush my teeth enough. That's probably everyone's go to. This is the root cause. And then the solution is I need to brush my teeth more. Boom, problem solved. But the reality is that is not the case. It could also be I just ate a garlic onion delicious pizza and now I'm blowing my hot breath on you for some reason. It could be that maybe I have some sort of respiratory infection. Maybe I have some sort of dental issue that needs to be taken care of. It could be a genetic disorder. So it doesn't matter how many times I brush my teeth. Maybe it's I just got this stanky breath, and it runs in the family. Maybe I just woke up from a nap and I got that super fun morning breath that I think we all get. Or maybe I am standing way too close to people when I speak. So, right there, I think that's about 7 or 8 different contributing factors, or as the book would call it, root causes, as to why my breath stinks. And so then we would go into our potential solves, which could be maybe I could go to the doctor and see if I have some sort of infection or dental issue if I go to the dentist. Maybe I, of course, could brush more. Maybe I could carry packs of gum on me. Maybe I could have mouthwash or those little Listerine strips. Maybe I could take a step back when I'm talking to people. And I would say the best case would be to try a combo of all of these. So, of course, with this scenario, it would be easy to probably implement all of these at one time. When you get to harder issues, you may have to only be able to do 1 or 2, see how that works, and add others. But you get the point, right? The point is there's multiple reasons and there's multiple solutions. It's not always just one and one. So, let's get back to our topic of overbooking your wrap shop. So, the very first thing that I personally came up with as a root cause is that maybe you don't have any math behind your scheduling. And I would like to preface all of this by saying every single thing I'm about to say is a huge mistake that I made myself, me or my husband, Andrew. So, the first one with the no math behind the booking. I may have mentioned this in a previous podcast, but do you know one time this man booked 7 full food truck wraps in 1 week? And it was me, him, and I think we might have had 2 subcontractors at the time that did not know how to wrap very well. That was an ungodly amount of stress that put all of us under, because not only are the jobs not getting done, the clients are yelling at us. We still booked the following week as if we were going to get those 7 weeks done. And when I look back to that moment, the issue was there was no thought behind it. It was just, oh, you're giving me money? Yeah, I can do it this week. There has to be some sort of math behind your scheduling and how you are getting your jobs. Maybe you do it by the amount of hours you think the job will take you to complete, and you know how many hours you'll work a day and figure out that math. Our shop personally does it with a revenue capacity. So we book each week to a certain revenue amount. And this dollar amount ensures that we will cover payroll, that we will cover our rent, our electric, the cost of the vinyl. So, it just keeps us on track. It also shows if we aren't booked to that amount, maybe in slower season, then we need to probably send people home early or figure out what we can do to drum up more sales, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, you need some math behind your scheduling. So I would assume a root cause is you just kind of willy-nilly are booking. Number 2, your pricing is misaligned maybe with this capacity. So that's if you book like us and you book with a revenue goal, a weekly revenue goal. So maybe you are following that, but you see that it is just drowning yourself or your team or however many members you have on your staff. Maybe that means your pricing is not correct on where it should be. Very easy example. Are you charging the same to wrap a box truck as you are a Ferrari with door jambs? Huge difference, of course. I'm sure no one in the industry is doing exactly that because that would just be a giant mistake, but you get the point. One requires significantly less time and skill, while the other one is a much higher skill level, much more time. Probably the customer is going to be more picky, expect a higher attention to detail, things like that. So you need to make sure that your pricing matches the type of job that you're doing. Number three is that the job complexity might have been underestimated. So, a really good example of this is maybe you get a vehicle that comes into the shop and you had absolutely no idea that it required a full removal. And you had no idea that that removal was going to be a huge pain in the butt. So, now that just added 20 hours or something to a completely packed out week that you weren't expecting. So, that could be an issue causing overbooking because it's going to cause you to run behind. Number four is unrealistic client timelines. So, this is a big one. Did you tell this person that you could achieve a full wrap in one day? And you know very well that you couldn't. Maybe they pressured you. Maybe you did that to get the sale. Whatever it may be, you gave some sort of unrealistic timeline to that customer. So, of course, you're overbooked, and the customers are upset because they were expecting something that wasn't achievable straight from the get go. Number five is that the prints, so if you're doing a custom printed job, maybe those prints aren't ready. So maybe you're still in the design phase or still in the print phase. I can't tell you how many years we went printing jobs when the vehicle was right in front of us in the shop, and that just delayed so much time we would have spent installing right away. So maybe your prints aren't late or are late. And then also the material. If you're a shop that just does color changes, maybe you didn't have that material ordered, or maybe you waited till a couple days before and the shipping got delayed because we all know shipping has been a little crazy recently. So maybe that could contribute to your job running late and adding to your overbooking issue. Number six is that the vehicles coming into your shop are so dirty. Like, I'm talking pull out the pressure washer dirty. And again, that kind of could be similar to number three of the job complexity being underestimated. But essentially, you didn't plan for that extra time in that type of prep work. Like, you anticipate cleaning the vehicle, but you didn't anticipate the 2 to 3 additional hours to pressure wash or even more. And so that is making you fall behind. Number seven would be rollovers from the previous week. Maybe you've been a little falling behind or off schedule, and now you're starting to see that domino effect take place of all the jobs from last week are rolling over into this week. So now I'm going to be late on this week and moving forward into next week. And it is a vicious cycle that we have been in many times. And it's not a fun place to be at all. Number eight, on site installs. This one could be a whole separate episode in itself. We all know how on site install goes. That requires just an insane amount of communication, and still something will be wrong. The point of contact won't be there. The prints are wrong. There was supposed to be some sort of prep work that happened before you showed up and it didn't. And so now they're kind of looking at you as what to do, all sorts of things. But you're sitting there trying to problem solve with this client and you're not installing the wrap, causing you to fall behind in your week. And then my final thing was unclear coverage expectations. This happens all the time in the shop, or it did happen. And every now and then it still does if something doesn't get done correctly. My biggest example of this would be, say, a food truck comes in and your installers are looking at it like, are we supposed to cover this little piece? What about this piece? What about this railing? I don't think it's going to stick here. Did we tell them it's going to stick here? All of those things, that conversation of debating back and forth, should we cover it? Should we call the client? Should we not? The proof shows it, so maybe we should. You're talking and you're not wrapping, so you're falling behind on the schedule. All of these moments add up. So when you sit back and look at your week, if you had all of these things happen, well, yeah, no wonder you couldn't get all the jobs done for the week, because you had so many unplanned time disruptors, I guess you would say, that took up the time. So those are the 9 root causes of overbooking. And like I said, I'm sure you could sit here and analyze more. And I'm sure maybe there's some that your shop experiences that maybe ours doesn't. So the next step is to take those issues of root causes and come up with your potential solutions. So highly recommend a whiteboard for this. We're big whiteboard people for that. iPad, paper, old school, whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter, but definitely writing all this down helps. So, your potential solutions to those above problems would be one, so we mentioned that weekly revenue goal. So, don't book off a gut feeling. You need to have some sort of system behind how you're booking. Two, if you're booking off of pricing, you need to make sure that you are pricing accurately. And one of the biggest ways to confirm your pricing accurately is require those photos up front. We're probably going to mention this in so many episodes because I cannot express enough how much that helped our quoting, our sales, our install when we started requiring photos of whatever it was that we were supposed to be wrapping. And to give you a quick little story of an example that this blew up in our face, when I was new to sales, someone called in and said they wanted their hood wrapped hot pink. And they said that the hood's not on the car, they could drop it off to us. I was like, great. I think I charged like, I don't know, maybe $200 to $300, thinking it was just a regular hood. And I knew that we would be able to wrap it in an hour or less. Easy money. And I was all proud of myself. Customer shows up on their install date with the hood, and it might have, I don't know, 8 or 9 different vents in it, 4 or 5 different scoops. It to this day was the most intricate aftermarket hood for like a huge truck that I've ever seen. And I just remembered looking at Andrew like, yeah, I messed this one up. I messed this up big time. So he starts wrapping it, and I want to say he probably had 10 hours in wrapping it, and something again that we anticipated like one. So right off the rip, we're a whole day behind on our week. And then, fun fact, it ended up peeling like crazy because this was in the very beginning of our wrapping journey when just quality wasn't amazing. And I think we ended up having to refund that customer because we actually weren't even confident in rewrapping it again. And that refund at that time was that $200 or whatever. So cut our losses and refunded it. But really good example of how pricing something accurately and knowing what that job was would have saved us time because I could have priced it accurately and I could have quoted the time accurately. So then that comes to the setting realistic timeframes, number 3. And that's the solution for the job complexity being underestimated. So those realistic timeframes help make sure that you don't fall behind. And I am a big, big, big believer of ask for more time than you need and surprise them when you're done early because no one is ever going to be mad at you when you call and say, guess what? I got this done early. No one's going to be upset about that. Everyone is always thrilled when that happens. A big thing that we did in our shop years ago was we used to book full wraps, no matter what it was. If it was a full wrap, we booked it Monday through Friday. So that meant that there was a Friday pickup. I cannot, again, express enough how miserable that made our Fridays because all day on Friday, the customer's calling in, hey, when is it going to be ready? I have my driver on standby to pick it up or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we need another hour. We need another hour. And I keep calling back, asking for like another hour or two because I'm not even estimating the time right of how much time we need. They're getting frustrated. Then it turns into can you pick it up tomorrow on a Saturday, which would be nice if you worked a crazy busy week, if you could get a Saturday off. But I was willing to give up our Saturday to try to make the customer happy. So then, of course, we stay up all night, we get it done by Saturday. And then the customer calls and says, I actually can't pick it up till like Tuesday. And it happens so many times, which is like, yay, it's done. So that's good. But wow, that was such an ungodly amount of stress for no reason. And it just makes the tension, especially if you have employees, the tension is so high because like you see them talking or you see them getting a snack and you're like, get back to work. Like, what are you doing? Like, we need to get this done ASAP. And that just is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for you as the founder, and it's uncomfortable for them as the installer to experience that type of stress. So we updated our deadlines to a Monday to Monday, and I make sure that anyone who works front desk knows to tell the client, hey, we book our full wraps Monday to Monday. And that reason is because we hope we're done by Friday. But if for some reason we're not, because unplanned things happen all the time, hence the 9 things that I just told you in this podcast, we use the weekend to catch up, to ensure that we are on time for Monday. And most people handle that incredibly well. So it's all about just how you present it, your confidence, why are you doing it? And it's not just, oh, the vehicle's going to sit here untouched for 5 days and we're going to do it this weekend. No, it's that we have multiple jobs going on at the same time. And this is the best way to ensure that we meet the deadline and that you aren't missing anything on your end as the customer because you're anticipating the vehicle to be down for that amount of time. And like I said, call early if you're done earlier. So the Monday to Monday time frame has been a lifesaver. So, another cause of overbooking that we discussed earlier was the prints and material running late. So, on this one, it really depends on what kind of shop you are. Do you handle the design and print portion of the job in house or do you outsource that? So, this one is kind of, depending on what your personal shop does. Our shop handles design and prints under our own roof. So, we handle every part of the process. We require that artwork is approved 2 weeks prior to the installation drop off date. So, the day that you're going to drop off your car, 2 weeks before, we need to have like the e signature that your art is perfect and good to go. Then that allows our print operator to get everything printed 1 week in advance. So, right now, she is printing things that are coming in next week. So, she is always a week in advance. This has been a huge, huge lifesaver for us because you catch errors that are wrong early on. If your printer has any issues, it's not this panic because the job is staring at you in the face and you need to get it done. You have time to resolve it in a timely manner. And I do want to say there are definitely times where the clients do not hit that artwork deadline. And it just is a conversation of expectations back and forth of, this is the absolute latest that we can have this artwork approved by. And if not, you might risk it postponing. Typically, when you use that verbiage, clients do not want to postpone. And so they will get their art approved in time. So, really kind of mitigating that. And then if you're a color change shop, if you only do color change, so what we do is we do require a 50% deposit on our color change wraps before they come in. And so that allows us to take that money and then, of course, immediately buy their custom material. The reason you want to buy it as soon as you sell the job is to avoid it going out of stock, which I've noticed has been a huge thing recently. Didn't always used to be a thing, but now it is where a vinyl is there and then you go to buy it a week later and it's completely out of stock. And then you like call or email and you get told, we have absolutely no ETA, which is very hard for me to tell a customer there's no ETA on when this is coming back. So that allows you some time to game plan if that does happen to you. But the customer is going to be much more upset if they've been on your schedule for 6 weeks and you call the day before they're supposed to show up saying, hey, your vinyl is actually out of stock. It's not here. Because it's like, well, what were you doing for the 6 weeks? So get your prints and your art done in advance and order your material in advance. You want your material to be there and ready for you. The other issue that we brought up was dirty vehicles causing that extra prep time. This one is all about communication with your clients. We personally pair the expectation of, hey, you need to wash your vehicle before you bring it um, in a text message or an email that has their appointment reminder in it. Also, a key thing that actually I didn't make the list could just be clients forgetting their appointment. Appointment reminders are huge. I can't say how many people forget their appointments, but it doesn't say anything crazy. It just says to ensure that your job gets completed on time, it would be incredibly helpful to us if you just at least ran your car through a quick car wash. Of course, you have the trucks that they need to go through the truck wash or something like that. And typically, if the client is in a weird spot and they cannot get it through some sort of a wash, they usually will call and tell us, in which we will always say that's no big deal because we can plan on our end to know that we will need to clean it. So, just setting that expectation really helps make sure that every single vehicle coming in isn't just completely filthy. And I don't just mean dirty as in, you get the spray and the alcohol and it wipes right off. I mean like a semi truck that has never in its life been washed, or a Jeep Wrangler that just went mudding and then they dropped it off at your shop right after. I'm talking that level of dirty. That is what you want to avoid. Basically, if the pressure washer has to come out to get the initial grime off of your vehicle, we are losing time that we most likely did not plan for unless the customer communicated. And we actually got to kind of do a little case study on this. So we had a front desk person who ended up putting their 2 weeks in. And so I started covering the position while we were in between our new hire. And It just completely slipped my mind that in the appointment reminders, we also remind them to clean their vehicles. And I mean, immediately within like 2 weeks, the installers were coming up to me like, "Are you reminding them to clean their vehicles?" Because almost every single vehicle is just absolutely filthy. So I was like, "Oh my God, totally forgot. I will make sure that I do that in the text messages moving forward." Noticeable difference of people washing their vehicles. So it's all about communication and being friendly and working with your customer if they do have a concern about that. And then, of course, we have the issue of the rollovers from the week prior. This one is a tough one because once you get into that domino effect of the jobs just rolling into the next week, and you have to take a step back. If you're wrapping, put the squeegee down, look at your schedule. I'm talking weeks in advance. But if you're booked 6 weeks out, you need to look at those next 6 weeks. If you're only booked a week out, then pretty easy because you can probably just say, hey, next week, people, I'm running late. But if you're booked out like 6 weeks, it is a puzzle. So we actually ran into a situation, to give a tiny story on this, where we had a couple installers quit on the same day. And we were booked out, I want to say 6 or 7 weeks at this time. I mean, it was heat of busy season. And it's easy to just say, oh, I personally will work all night, every night to get it done. But eventually your business will get to the point that you can't single handedly put the whole team on your back and get the installs done, because it's not just one vehicle that needs done, it's like five. And there's just no way that that is a solution. So you have to sit down, look at your schedule. I would first see, are there any existing team members that you have that would be interested in an overtime opportunity, a weekend job, and set incredibly clear expectations with them if so? That would be the first. The second would be, do you have any subcontractor installers in your network? Now, this also could be a whole episode. If you have never dealt with subcontracting out to other installers, being in a pinch like this might not be the exact time to try it if you don't know that installer and know their skill and know their kind of work ethic. Do they hit deadlines? All of those items. There are many horror stories of someone hiring someone and they don't show up, or they did a bad job, or they're not answering their phone, or they only did half the job, or um, some from us for sure we've experienced, and others from other wrap shops. So you can utilize subcontractors, but you just need to be very careful about who you are selecting and remember that they represent your brand in that moment. The third thing I would say, if those two are not an option, so you don't have any team members willing to work over and you don't have any subs who can help you out, now it's just a matter of puzzle piecing your schedule. You're going to have to start calling your clients and pushing jobs back. It is not fun, but a bunch of difficult conversations is worth your sanity. So I would rather be on the phone for a few hours moving. And in this scenario where I told you the installers actually weren't there anymore and we had to reschedule some things, I probably spent about 2 or 3 hours on the phone with customers. I think I had to call about a dozen. Out of the dozen, I want to say 10 of them didn't even like remember their appointment, which goes back to my point earlier of people forgetting their appointment. So they were like, oh, okay, no big deal. I actually couldn't remember when my install date was anyway and was hoping you would tell me. So they were totally chill. I had one person that was incredibly dead set on the deadline. Um, the reasoning was not like for an event or something, it was just kind of personal. They were really set on this deadline. And I did offer them a refund if they needed to find a different shop because I just was completely incapable of hitting that deadline for them. And I wouldn't say they left, cheery, but they weren't mad. It was just, it is what it is. Thank you for everything. Here you go. And then I had one customer that like asked for like a 15% discount or something for the inconvenience, which, okay, sure. So we added that on for them. So those 3 hours of slightly difficult conversations with customers and being honest with them and letting them know this is the spot I'm in, and wraps aren't something that you can just crazy rush unless you want the quality to significantly drop or for us to miss a deadline and you be upset that we have your vehicle for longer than you anticipated. That was worth much more to me than the next 6 weeks of my own life just being absolute chaos and miserable, and the team feeling it, because when you are miserable, your team feels that things are miserable. So have the difficult conversations, look ahead, be proactive, not reactive, and it will really make all the difference and it won't be as bad as you think. Again, it's all about verbiage. How do you tell your customers? And it is what it is. At the end of the day, you're only human. You can only do what you can do. Then we also brought up the on site inefficiencies. That one's a tough one because it's all about communications. My biggest rule of thumb on that is I always just expect something to go off with an on site. So I try to purposely plan for more time. I try to over communicate. And the other big thing is if you did everything you feel like you could to communicate with the client, get everything is organized, and something falls through that has nothing to do with you, I wouldn't be afraid to say, like, no, I can't show up tomorrow to get the job done. Now, of course, it depends on your relationship with this client and money situations and all of those things. So take my advice on this one with a grain of salt and address it to your own specific situation. But there are times when we have to tell customers, this is the only date that we can come back out due to this concern. And 9 times out of 10, it's fine and it gets adjusted. But like I said, if you have a special relationship with that customer, they're a key client, all of those things, you might bend over backwards for them, and that's fine. Do whatever you need to do, but just expect delays with on-site installs because there's always a lot of parties involved for the most part. And then my very last one was that unclear coverage expectation. So if there is one thing that I am very particularly OCD about in my shop, it is when coverage is not clearly defined. And this is more on, like, my biggest example that I said earlier would be a food truck. So like, are we wrapping the railings? Are we doing this little trim piece? Are we doing the painted metal bumpers? That needs to be notated somewhere that can be visually referred back to. The easiest way that I have personally found is you gotta be an iPad kid. The iPads really make all the difference. I am team iPad, and I actually wasn't team iPad until I had an employee who was like, "You need to be team iPad." And so we got an iPad for the shop, and just take a picture of the vehicle, and you can get a little Apple Pen and you can use the markup feature to literally just circle not getting wrapped or is getting wrapped or no warranty or not going to look good. Like, whatever you want to write, the world is your oyster. You can write whatever you want to on there. And I use that sheet. I typically attach it to the quote, and I make sure that the customer sees it. And I also make sure that our installers have access to it and the design team. So everybody is on the same page on, is that front bumper getting wrapped? Yes or no? Do we need prints? Whatever it may be. And that will save you so much time in just this uncertain conversation of, I think it is, I think it isn't, all of those things. So anywho, those are the kind of potential solutions that you could use in your shop if you're starting to be overbooked, fall behind, feel that domino effect. So try some of them, try all of them. These are all things that helped us out. And I wish someone would have like shook me years ago and said, like, try some of these because this will help. So plan ahead, protect your team's sanity. And I'm telling you that when you go to this method, you will not revert back to the all nighter lifestyle unless you have some crazy, scenario. You got like a celebrity that needs it done tomorrow and they're paying triple short. You might have some items like that pop up in life. But in general, enjoy your home life, take a weekend off. We're just wrapping cars. We're not heart surgeons. There is nothing that should be causing that amount of ungodly stress that I know I personally felt when we started to get into that overbooking and that domino effect. So I hope that you found some little nuggets of wisdom in this. If you have any friends in the industry that experience these sorts of problems, please, please, please send this to them. And if this was sent to you, that's awesome. That means someone else in your life cares about you and wants you to get out of difficult situations and have a more, enjoyable work experience. So Thank you so much for listening. If you got any value out of this, please, please, please leave a review. And also, if you have any questions that you specifically have about this podcast, any of the other episodes, or just something on your mind that you want to ask, you can head over to WrapOps.com and ask us any question, and we will address it right here on our podcast. So thank you so much. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll welcome you into the next episode. Have a good day, guys.